Yeah. So anyway, China's rise is basically an internal affair. They want to see their country prosper, and they're very modest in their aspirations. They want to create a moderately prosperous country by like 2035 or something like that, right? And a fully modernized socialist country by 2050. Well, what country in the world other than China talks about striving for moderate prosperity? You get the drift, it's like saying, well, we just want to grow and we want to fulfill the needs and wants and desires of our people, and we want to help other countries rise up as well. A shared destiny for humankind, as they put it. Why is that a threat? It's only a threat because if China succeeds in building its economy in all respects and in all around fashion, it will just on the face of it surpass the U.S. Not because it's out to gain hegemony, not as if it's out to rule the world. It's just a matter of the dynamics of the situation. China, as it develops, will become wealthier and more influential, and the role of the U.S. will be diminished as a result. But that's not because of any design on the part of China to try to compete with or dominate the U.S. It's just a matter of the natural result of one country rising, pulling itself up by its own bootstraps, and another country with a dysfunctional system of government and all sorts of internal contradictions falling behind. So whose fault is that? You can't blame China for trying to do the best for itself. And it's not China's fault that the U.S. Can't seem to get its own house in order. So this whole narrative about China as a threat and how we have to compete with China is just so much bullshit, to put it bluntly.
Well, another reason why America is so amped up and why she sees the end in sight and why she's so angry is because, like we talked about, the yuan is being traded and currency swaps. The yuan just got a bigger share of global exchanges. China set up her own independent gold exchange. China set up her own SWIFT system. China has set up her own international bank. She set up the BRICS Bank. She set up the AIIB Bank, which funds all of these projects in Asia and Africa. So even if America tried to cut China off, China being in reality not what they're saying now, but China is actually the largest economy in the world. It would not work. She can't sanction China and break her like she would do someone else. Now, I want to pivot to something that you said when you talked about the digital yuan. Do you know that China is already getting ready to put ATMs for the Olympics where foreigners can use to get digital yuan wallets so that they can spend it in China, while America has not even come up with anything similar to that? And that has something to do with this, because I was looking at something on the on a report, and one of America's greatest fears, and when I say America, I'm talking about her elite greatest fears, is that China gets mad and then revalues her currency in gold and silver. Now, China says it only has like 1,500 tons of gold, and we all know that that's a lie because it's between the first and the second largest miner of gold that goes between her and South Africa and her and Zimbabwe and her and Russia. It goes, it fluctuates like that as the main producers of it. But I want to play this clip here that talks about the relevance of the gold reserves that China has. And this is what has struck fear in the United States, because the West no longer has gold, and the West cannot manipulate the gold in the East anymore because of the Shanghai gold exchange. And this is what has got in America's crosshairs. So before I play that, I have to play the fair use video first. It's about 10 seconds, 15 seconds. So bear with me, then we'll come back and we'll play that. So just listen.
Gold is some useless, inert asset, right, whose heyday was in the 19th century, as irrelevant to modern finance as the horse is to transport. Maybe not. Today we return to a favourite theme of ours, and once I haven't looked at since probably 2019, and that is, how much gold does China have? And for those with short attention spans who don't want to watch to the end of this video, I'll cut straight to the chase. China has much more gold than it says it does. In fact, it has more gold than the US. Its enormous gold hoards are all part of its grand global reserve currency status designs. Right, now time to back up those assertions. Let's do an audit. Audits involve a lot of numbers, and too many numbers can get a little overwhelming, so I'm going to try and keep these numbers to a mentally digestible minimum. But let me start with perhaps the most important contextual figure and anchor that in your minds, and that is US gold holdings. Official records show that the United States owns some 8,133 tons, most of it in Fort Knox. Although I should say that gold in Fort Knox hasn't been audited for 50 years. The US is the world's largest gold owner, or so you would have thought, and gold comprises 77% of United States foreign exchange reserves. China's officially declared holdings are 1,948 tons, so about a bit less than a quarter of the US, and that makes up just 3% of its $3.2 trillion of foreign exchange holdings. The real number is, of course, much higher than that. China has been the world's largest gold producer since 2007. This past decade, it has produced about 15% of all the gold mined in the world. Last year, it produced 380 tons, which is about 20% more than the world's second largest producer, Australia. And since 2000, China has mined roughly 6,500 tons of gold, and more than half of Chinese gold production is state-owned. China National Gold Corporation alone accounts for 20%. So already, just on Chinese gold production alone, that official 1,948 ton figure looks doubtful. Crucially, China keeps all of the gold it mines. Exporting domestic gold production is not allowed. And with reserves in decline at home, Chinese mining companies have also been buying assets abroad, across Africa, South America and Asia. And international production exceeded domestic production by about 15 tons last year. But as well as being the world's biggest producer, China is also the world's biggest importer of gold. It's hard to get precise import figures, but we do know that, for example, via Hong Kong alone, over 6,000 tons has entered the country since 2000. So if you add that to cumulative gold production since 2000, you get a figure of 13,200 tons. Whether imported, mined or recycled, most of the gold that enters China goes through the Shanghai Gold Exchange, the SGE, including the gold imported from Hong Kong. So SGE withdrawals, for which we do have numbers, can act as something of an approximation for demand. And it is possible to get numbers for SGE withdrawals. Since 2008, roughly 20,000 tons have been withdrawn from the SGE. Then we have to add in all the gold held in China, whether as bullion or jewellery, prior to 2000. And the World Gold Council estimates a figure of 2,500 tonnes in privately held jewellery. If you add domestic mining and official reserves, you arrive at a figure of about 4,000 tonnes. Now, Nick Laird of Gold Charts Are Us, one of the world's leading gold data experts, has cobbled it all together to produce this chart, which shows cumulative gold held in China to be around 28,911 tonnes. I've spoken to numerous analysts, Ross Norman, Bron Suchetsky, formerly of the Perth Mint, Koos Janssen, and they all arrive at similar estimates. In addition, there is gold entering China that is not accounted for by SGE withdrawals. Ross Norman points out that the People's Bank of China, the PBOC, likes to buy 12.5 kilo gold bars. They don't trade on the SGE. Also, the PBOC often uses dollars on exchanges in London, Dubai and Switzerland, while the SGE sells its gold in yuan. The army too owns gold and doesn't have to declare its purchases. Remember, there are many state agencies on top of the army and the central bank which buy gold. There's the State Administration of Foreign Exchange and China Investment Corporation, the Sovereign Wealth Fund, to give you two examples. So how much of all that huge hoard is state-owned? 40%? 50%? 60%? But at 50%, the implication is that China owns roughly 14,500 tonnes. That is 1.8 times more than the US. Now, it may be that only 20 or 30% of that gold is state-owned. I find that unlikely, but even if that's the case, it still owns more than the US. And China has been famously encouraging its citizens to buy gold since 2008. And the SGE has actually stated that only consumers buy gold over exchange, but it almost doesn't matter. This encouragement to buy gold, as one of my readers resident in China reported to me, kicked off a frenzy of laundry as China's citizens rushed to exchange the hordes of hooky cash they'd built up. In his local bank in Shanghai, he said, in 2009, he was standing behind a Chinese bloke who was unlocking bundles of euros, US dollars, Singapore dollars, Swiss francs in exchange for 5 kilo gold bars across the counter. Gold ownership in China is registered, so the government knows how much its citizens have. But it's commonly thought that should Beijing invite private holders of gold to support a major government currency initiative by pledging their gold as a kind of war bond, then there would be a 99% pickup. The vast majority of Chinese trust their government, especially when it comes to returning China to the top of the world. And that means a considerable amount of extra gold can very quickly be mobilized to participate in whatever Beijing is planning. Chinese gold holders don't have the same mistrust of government held by Western gold bugs. The party's seen as a good housewife to the nation. But the disruption it would cause means there's no way China can declare such large official holdings, not yet anyway. There'd be an unwanted surge in both the yuan and the gold price. The government's $3.2 trillion of US dollar foreign exchange reserves would be devalued. And to declare that much gold would be a direct challenge to American supremacy, which China is, I don't think, yet ready for. Parity first, then supremacy. So for now, they follow Deng Xiaoping's doctrine of we must not shine too brightly until everything is ready. President Trump wrong-footed the Chinese, and that and COVID, the great accelerator, may have brought schedules forward. The Chinese president Xi Jinping is known as a man of destiny, and he may want the great ascension to happen on his watch. But backing its money, if only in part with gold, as empires on the rise are wont to do, would give China great credibility in a world awash with money printing.